The time is just gone 9:35. We were due to interview Kanita Hunter, but it will happen after this interview because right now we're going across to be joined by Africa Muslims Agency. Their ladies delegation is currently in Afghanistan, and part of the ladies delegation is Sister Nadia Jacobs. Nadia, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, brother Inayat, and the Salam Media listeners.
Jazakallah khairan so much for your time. Now, Nadia, we understand that you are in Afghanistan, looking at how you are obviously dressed. So I'm sure it's very, very cold out there in Afghanistan. But you are part of this ladies' delegation with Africa Muslims Agency and looking at the projects. Yeah, I know AMA has had a lot of projects and also at the same time connecting with local communities. We know the month of Ramadan is coming up as well, and this is now the Go Beyond campaign you're talking about. So if you could just take us through, because now that you've arrived in Afghanistan, take us through your itinerary and also looking at the projects you visited and also the communities that you're going to be engaging with.
Yes, so the main part of
Yes,
the
I think
delegation was really all families had broken connection.
we seem to be sorry, Nadia, we
I'll
seem
just
to be
jump around a
losing.
little
Perhaps
bit.
if you could just to save the bandwidth, if you could just maybe obviously switch off your camera, so hopefully we'll be able to get you clearly, because
Okay,
I think with the camera,
I
so if
can
you could
do
switch off your
that.
camera, please. Okay, go ahead, please, Sister Nadia.
Yes, we'll switch off the camera and yes, that is perfect. So we have visited various orphan families yesterday. And then we've also visited one family that is sponsored. And, the variation between the sponsored family and the unsponsored families is like chalk and cheese. Absolutely chalk and cheese. Part of the itinerary is also we opened a borehole yesterday at a madrasa masjid. It's the masjid of that community. So it serves over 1,000 people. They have 300 children that attend madrasa at that particular masjid. So you can imagine the difference that this borehole brings to this community of over 1,000 people. And, this was a Nia, as per Nia, of a sponsor in South Africa, Alhamdulillah. Then, as we move around, today we are with over 200 orphans. We have over 200 orphans that we have here at the office that we are entertaining today. And I would like to check if we can switch on the camera just before we log out so that we can show you some of these children, the sponsored children, and the difference that the sponsorship these families, subhanallah. And most of the days we will be spending through going through and having distributions with families, finding out the needs and assessing the needs, and obviously going beyond for Ramadan 2024. So it won't stop there. We will go beyond that, inshallah. I mean, there's a lots of food parcel distributions being done. We have not even less than a month left for Ramadan. So these are all important sponsorships that we are trying to get out into the communities of Afghanistan.
Yes, and also, Sister Nadia, we know that a lot of times we read about what's happening in Afghanistan, we watch on our television screens, we hear from people, but for the ladies' delegation to be there and you've got a first-hand account, and perhaps you could just take us through some of your initial observations or impressions that you've had upon your arrival in Afghanistan, and considering that these communities, these projects have been supported by AMA, by your organization, but still a lot more to do and a lot more to explore.
Yes, subhanallah, arriving here, you prepare yourself mentally and psychologically psychologically for a trip like this as a female delegation, knowing being on the ground in humanitarian, doing humanitarian work, you sort of prepare yourself, but it's still it's a moment of truth when you land. You get a bit of a culture shock, though you are prepared, because knowing that Afghanistan for over 4 decades have been going through major. They had war, they had changes happening with the Taliban, but at the end of the day, it's the communities that are suffering more than uh, more than three-quarters of Afghanistan. They need humanitarian aid, and majority of that is children and women, the girl children, the women. More than 875,000 children need assistance for education, assistance for food. There are so many orphan families and children out there. So for me, that's quite a bit of a culture shock. And knowing that there's still, even though I was on the ground here for many years, there's a lot that still needs to be done, and we need so much more help and assistance from sponsors and donors, inshallah.
Well, inshallah, we hope that people will obviously dig deep, inshallah, and contribute to this worthy and needy cause. But also at the same time, looking at this trip that the ladies' delegation has made, and as you go through this entire journey of providing humanitarian assistance, your humanitarian efforts as Africa Muslim Agency as well, just looking at what are the expectations, what are you expecting in terms of outcomes, or even in terms of making an impact on this particular visit in Afghanistan, Sister Nadia?
Obviously, I think for me personally, being part of this female delegation, it's a personal objective of mine to make sure that we reach out to as many families, needy families as possible, so that we can assist them and help them and take them out of the position that they are. Because some of them, I mean, I spoke to families yesterday. I asked them about Ramadan. What are you looking forward in Ramadan? They said they're not looking forward to Ramadan, even though they know it is Allah has sent them that it's a blessing from Allah. But all they have is bread and tea. Whether it is for iftar, whether it is for suhoor in the morning, they basically have bread and tea. And sometimes they don't even have that bread and tea. They have to wait for their neighbors, and most of the neighbors are also in a bad situation. They have to wait and see what leftovers they have for these kids to eat. And these are children telling me that they don't have anything to have for Ramadan.
Mm.
So
And just
for me personally, I want to go beyond and make sure that I make that change to all these families, that they have something to eat for iftar, the reward that we are going to get for feeding these families, feeding them, just getting them something to break their fast with should be major to make a difference. I mean, we are going to reap those rewards of those families that we are feeding for Ramadan.
Well, Sister Nadia, you've seen it now firsthand. You've seen what is actually happening in Afghanistan. And I'm sure, just in terms of your understanding, you've gained a deeper understanding in terms of this important effort, this international humanitarian effort that we need to embrace, and more importantly we need to contribute towards, particularly now in the context of Ramadan. And we know what is taking place in our homes, the hype and the build up to Ramadan, the preparations that are taking place. But when you are in a situation where you speak about people having bread and tea, or not even having that bread and tea in the month of Ramadan, it tells us a very different story. And I suppose, this is where
It's
your appeal, and this is where the ladies' delegation will appeal to the people, to our listeners, to our viewers this morning, that let us start thinking about Ramadan and what Ramadan is going to be like in Afghanistan and in many other parts around the world.
absolutely. All that went through my mind, and it's a very emotional experience, subhanallah. I can say this to you without a doubt. It's emotional. Sitting there knowing that we are preparing for Ramadan. Our freezers are being packed. Our samosas are being folded. We are already prepping for the whole month. We are already ordering our 100 samosas and our 200 pies all over. And I'm looking, sitting next to children that are telling me, we have nothing. We have nothing to eat during the month of Ramadan. It's not just during the month of Ramadan. That's why we need to go beyond, because they are starving every day, every single day. But they still say they're going to make dua for everybody that helps them, that assists them. They make these children are making dua for us. They do the most, and I'm jumping around because I'm so excited to share. We heard the most beautiful Quranic recitation from these children. They are Hafid al Quran.
Mm.
Even though they have nothing to eat, they find solace in their Quran to recite, and they recite for us, and we are sitting there sobbing our eyes out to think they have nothing to eat, and they're not depressed about it. They actually find solace in the Quran and the recitation of the Quran, and thanking us for being here, and coming to see their need. They like really happy to see us here. And I would really like to show, if I can switch the video on to show some of
Yes,
the
please
more
go
than
ahead,
200
Nadia.
children
Let's
that
see
we
if we can
have
get
here in the
a video clip.
okay. I will try and move to the delegation outside. I just came, um, so I'm not sure if I can turn the camera around. Let's just do that. I'm going to do that. So this is distribution that we have here today. We are feeding over 200 children, orphan children here today. And these, you can see the difference between these children. I'm just going to take you through um, to them. I'm very excited to do this because I know the excitement that the children feel being here and knowing that we are part of um, making a difference in their lives and in the lives of the children that we are feeding. So these are over 200 children that's here today that is being fed by Africa Muslims Agency. But these children are all sponsored. These are orphans that are all sponsored here. And you can see the difference that we have with sponsored orphans. So they are being fed here today. They are being entertained here for the whole day because Friday is actually a holiday here in Afghanistan. And but these children are all sponsored. But there are many more children that need sponsorship from our donors and our sponsors out there. And I would make an appeal to everybody to go to africamuslimsagency.co.za. Also go to their social media pages and see what the female delegation is doing here on the ground, what the people do on the ground here. The Africa Muslims Agency staff on the ground, they are absolutely amazing. And you can see there's so much happening here today, subhanallah.
Yes, Sister
And
Nadia,
all I
Jazakallah
can
for
think
those.
is, you know what, Jazakallah.
Yeah, Jazakallah for showing off those visuals as well. Alhamdulillah, we know that obviously with signal strength, we were hoping for a lot, but we can't do much about that. But Alhamdulillah, it's given us a good
Yes.
indication as to what the ladies' delegation is doing out there as well. And it's most useful, in fact, and it should inspire us a lot more to do whatever we need to do to dig deep in our pockets, to sponsor these orphans, to take care of their needs as well. And as you mentioned, all the information is there on your website. It's on the social media platforms as well, inshallah. So we urge people to contribute towards this worthy cause. Once again, Jazakallah, Sister Nadia Jacobs, for your time with us on Salam Media Live out of Afghanistan this morning.
Jazakallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Walaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Nadia Jacobs, part of the ladies delegation from Africa Muslims Agency. And with it, we're going to go for a break. We come back, we'll be joined by Kanita Hunter. We will be talking about the event in Durban and also her book, Who Will Rule South Africa, the demise of the ANC and the rise of a new democracy.